people who might want to join us and couldn't come here. If for any of you there's a problem with that, then you can close your camera and write your questions in the chat. And I want to share with you why I wanted this this course to happen, and then Robert will take it from here. So I heard about Robert for the first time a few months ago in the NVC festival, and then I discovered that he lives here in Israel, and it was a celebration for me because I really wanted. Hello to who join us, Amir. I really wanted to have a program that will increase my ability to take NVC into the organization that I'm part of. I'm part of a social movement. And for the last year, maybe more, the whole topic of NVC through systematic lens is something that I'm exploring together with Chen, with here also. And I really felt the absence of this kind of language here in Israel, and partners to be supported from and to learn from, and some kind of a net here in Israel that talk can be seen not just through the the relational level. And that's it. And I see this program as an opportunity to learn from Robert that I very much appreciate, and to create that field of partnership and net of people who support each other to do this work here in Israel. And I think that's it. And Robert, I give it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
So hi, good evening, everybody. I'd just like to give an overview of how I imagine this evening. I would like to introduce myself a little bit, just the parts that I think are relevant. And then I would like to share from my experience why in which parts is it really challenging and really different and very specific to share NVC or to bring NVC into organizations. Because I believe there are a few points why this is more or different, let's say different and very specific, and very different from just giving open workshops in which people sign up because they would like to learn NVC. And then I would like to share a few points about what is intended for us to go through in this program that Sharon and Danny and me put together. And that's pretty much it. Then I would be very open for questions, you know, any sort of questions, providing that I can answer them. And should you have any questions while I'm talking, please interrupt me. I'll try to address them immediately. Also, if the language is the problem, and we'll find a way. And Sharon, can you take over the chat? So if people are writing stuff in the chat, yes, so that I don't need to. Okay, yes, thank you. Sure. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so my name is Robert. Yes, I've been in Israel. I'm originally from Europe. I'm from Slovenia. Actually, originally I'm from Yugoslavia, which doesn't exist anymore, but somehow my heart is still there. However, I have been living more or less in Israel here in Klil last 2.5 years. because my partner is Israeli and we have a little boy, 1.5 years old, Prince. So that's why I'm here. And my education is in psychology. I'm a psychologist. By my education, I used to work as a psychotherapist for 12 years, which may not seem relevant to this topic of sharing or NVC or giving trainings. But for me, it is incredibly relevant because this 12 years of having been a psychotherapist was a psychotherapy for my clients. But for me, it was a 12-year of a training in communication. How can I establish a connection? How can I communicate? How can I connect with a person who was very often, as you can imagine in psychotherapy, not completely open and eager to, connect, but kind of traumatized and shut down and so forth. So I'm very appreciative and very grateful for this 12-year training I have had, because it definitely supports my work with groups. And I've been working as a trainer with groups for 32 years. And the last 20 years, so I was working with groups even before I met NVC. And NVC is not the only thing I do. I also use Art of Hosting, I use Bohemian Dialogue, I use several other things. But let's say NVC is kind of a common denominator in everything that I do. And probably about last 20 years, I've been working a lot with organizations. Mostly my organization, not my organizations, but organizations I've been working with are from corporate environment. They're from big, pharmaceutical companies or financial institutions to small computer businesses and everything in between. So I have worked with really very many organizations. And so in the corporate environment, and I also, worked with all other organizations like non-profit, like schools, primary school, secondary school, universities, colleges, musical schools, NGOs, and so forth. So that's my background. That is probably relevant to a certain degree. And I'm certified with the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Now, when I started to work in organizations, like I said, it was about 20 years ago, I was in a way shocked. The first few years, I kept being shocked because somehow I thought that it should be pretty much the same as giving open trainings, to which people, I send out the marketing material, people decide to come because they're interested, they register, they pay, they come, they're eager to learn. Because, in my understanding, who wouldn't be eager to learn about communication and conflict resolution and personal development? So I thought it would be pretty much the same when I started to work in organizations, and it was not. It was very, very different, and I learned a lot through many times bumping, with my forehead into the thick wall and gathering myself up and so forth. And in my understanding, there are two main specific differences between offering open trainings or offering trainings in organizations. In organizations, I mean offering it to people who work together. They work together, they spend, 8 hours on average, maybe more, maybe 10 every day, 5, 6 days, sometimes a week. Very often they spend together more time than the time they spend with their own kids or with their own partner. So the main two differences that I noticed are very often what I notice is that people don't want to be at the workshop. So somebody in the management decided we are going to have a workshop. This is a good thing for us. We are changing the organizational culture. This is good. Microsoft did that, so it must be good. So let's do it. And then suddenly people are at this workshop and they don't want to be there. Either because they have other things to do that are more meaningful right now for them, or they have a firm conviction, they know it all. They know this stuff. They have been on many trainings already. Why would they need to listen more? And especially if you name that course nonviolent communication, which I think it's a mistake, but we'll talk more about that in our training. But if you actually call it nonviolent communication, I noticed that mostly people will get this image like, oh, this is for violent people, right? So nonviolent communication is for violent people, which is not me. I'm not violent. It's for these other people who are not here today. So it's a universal cosmical injustice that I have to be here. So it's not only it's not interesting for them, but it's actually deeply frustrating. So immediately, before even starting, before even saying, hi, my name is Robert, there is very often a very deep abyss between us. I'm on the other side. I'm the enemy as a trainer. And that's very different than in open trainings in which people are actually eager because they paid, they want to learn, they're curious, at least curious if not eager. So that's one reason that, as I identify, why is it very different to offer trainings or NVC trainings, let's say, in organizations. The other one is that because these people work together and they spend loads of time together, like I said before, every day, every week, every month, they have relationships, they have strong relationships, they have relational dynamics. There are many conflicts that either have been suppressed or they were attempting to resolve these conflicts and they didn't resolve them. There is power dynamics, there is hierarchy, the formal and informal hierarchy, and more and more and more. And that's the pool in which you enter as an innocent trainer. And then trying to teach, trying to share NVC is very often because this dynamic is so full and so charged. It is very often like trying to teach people who are in deep conflict. Like husband and wife come to you, they're in deep conflict. And then you say, okay, so let me share a few things about how to communicate. So there are three parts, the self-expression, and you start teaching them. They won't listen because there is pain in the room, there is bleeding in the room, there is frustration, there is history in the room. And they're unable to listen. Even if they want to, they're unable to listen. And if they would be able to listen, at least a little bit, very often they will think, I know all of that, the other person doesn't. So it's almost like, reaffirming how wrong the other person is. So in my experience, very often in these organizations, actually the pain, the difficulties, the frustration needs to be addressed first with the tools of NVC, perhaps, and with other tools. And then later on, when we have stopped, like Marshall Rosenberg liked to call it, stop the bleeding. When we stop the bleeding, like, okay, and now we can maybe explore whether you would like to have a training so that in future you will not be, hurting each other quite as much. So So these are the two, maybe there are more main differences, but for me, in my experiences, these are two main ones. And I very often, when I speak to my colleagues within CNVC, Center for Nonviolent Communication, or other places, I keep hearing this frustration when they are invited to the organization, because somebody from the organizations had some training privately in NVC. They thought, oh my God, this is good. Let's bring it into our organization. They're invited, they come there, and they do the same thing as they have been doing for 15, 20, whatever years. They try to deliver an excellent NVC training, and they fall on their face flat, and it's a frustrating, unpleasant experience for everybody. Yeah, so that's the main reason why we came up with this idea. Hey, let's have some sort of a trainer program for people who have been sharing NVC already, a lot or a little bit, but they have internalized NVC to a certain degree, and now they are eager to start sharing it. And maybe now or sometime soon, they are also considering bringing it into organizations. Okay, so I'll just give a few ideas, like general ideas, and then unless there are some questions, I would just kind of go through the program, and then we'll see if there are questions or comments or whatever. I'll be happy to try to answer them. So one thing is about addressing this first issue, that very often people are perhaps in the organization, they are not really excited to be on yet another training. So for me, the main question is how to introduce NVC. For me, these first 2 hours, let's say if I'm invited to give a 2-day introductory training, I never want to do less than 2 days of introduction. In my experience, 2 days are needed for some transformative personal shift to happen in people. Otherwise, it tends to remain only on the intellectual level, like, yeah. But if we have more time, then we can kind of go deeper, and something shifts, not maybe in everybody, but in most people. Anyway, so what I noticed is that the first 2 hours of this two-day training, let's say, are crucial. I need to touch them. I need to connect with these people in these first 2 hours in a way that they have not experienced yet. I need to manifest and embody the essence of NVC, or essence of connection. My son came to give me a kiss. Okay, he really wants to see you. He's giving you kisses, just so that you know. Okay.
Bye. Bye.
So now whenever he goes to sleep in the evening, he says goodbye to literally everything, and to most of these things, beings, or objects, he gives kisses. So goodbye to the fan, goodbye to the light, goodbye to the table, goodbye to this. Oh, so many people here, goodbye to all of them. And so it's a it's a ritual. Right, so in these first 2 hours, I really want to present or bring into the room magic of NVC, something that will be different than what they might have experienced so far, and something that will take away me as an enemy and replace this enemy image with a friend. Not by me speaking, not by me speaking so dramatically and so, such a sexy and, incredible way that this will bring some magic. Not at all. But can I bring myself in as a guest rather than as a trainer who will now let me teach you about communication? Can I come as a guest? Can I come as somebody who actually wants to hear from them and connect with them as human beings, and who wants to follow and what they have learned so far? So basically, can I enter this space as a humble guest, connecting, following, connecting on the level of heart, and then making maybe some invitations. So how to do that specifically, or how I am doing it for last 15 years. And since then, it always, literally always, 100%, it always happens that within 2 hours, we are together, we are connected, we are friends, and people stay, not because they have to, because boss told them to go, but because they really want to, because they are curious. What on earth is this? This is interesting, this is different. So there is something about that, and in this program, I would like to explore together, and then mostly to role play. So we will be role playing a lot, so that really it's not just about understanding, but it's really working on skills and making all possible errors and mistakes within the training, so that then in the real situation, we are this highly skilled surfers. So that's one thing. Another thing is this other topic that I said, that there is an pre-existing dynamics probably present in this organization or the team or whatever you are working with, and likely there is some pain, there is frustration, there is some history. How can I address that? How can I address that implementing NVC skills? But I want to tweak them a little bit. Because if I have 25 people in the room, and if I now start doing classical NVC thing, which would be, let's have a check-in circle, and then everybody sharing their heart in the circle, and I'm empathizing with everybody until they're completely kind of cooked in empathy. This may take 12 hours, and the group may not have that much capacity. There is a limited capacity to the group. So how can I make it? How can I make mediation? How can I make facilitation, address problems, addressing issues, addressing pain? How can I make that efficient enough so that it will work for everybody in the group, also for those people who are not directly involved in this issue? I will pause here for however long is needed, to see if there are any maybe questions, and then afterwards I would like to present what and why we are going to go through in this program, which will make it more specific, but still maybe there are some questions or comments so far. I saw lots of activity in the chat box in Hebrew.
It was me translating you through while you're talking.
Ah, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So my assumption is that there are no questions. No, there is one. Alon, this is a question. You're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is part of the problem. And I'm just kidding. My question is, you said that you are doing. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I do.
You said that you are doing 2 days workshop. Usually when I work with organizations, 2 days is way, way beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
So let's say that in the organization that I work with, it goes between 4 hours into an all day. So if the basic assumption or that we are doing 2 days workshop is going to be, for me, it's, I think in a way it's a problem, because the organization will not, you know, will want to work with me, and I do simulations workshop in communication skills in conflict situation with educators, and there is no way that there is even 1 day. It's usually between 2 hours into 4 hours, and that's it. So how can you persuade the organization to give you two days time?
Yeah. So Alon, I hear two questions here. One is, I'm not sure whether I got it correctly, so you will probably help me. One question that I heard is this program going to be focused on creating 2-day workshops? Because if that's the aim of this program, then that can be a problem for you, because you can't see how you can actually deliver 2-day workshops. So that's the first question that I hear. And the second one is,
right,
if it's possible at all, how can you talk to the, what I call the gatekeeper, in a way that persuades them to perhaps consider doing a longer training? Am I getting you?
Yeah. And there is one more question inside my,
okay,
that let's say the time limit will be 4 hours or half a day. Is your basic assumption or work assumption is that it's not enough in order to make a change?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So first thing is, thank you for the question. It will, I'm pretty sure it will also be informative for other people. First is, this about 2 days is just my personal very strong preference. I don't think it's a general rule at all. It's just my personal preference. And since I am able, and I will explain later, to actually persuade the gatekeepers to do it for 2 days, then of course I go for 2 days, because it's possible and it's my preference. However, I don't think that's the only thing. I think people are doing such a vast spectrum of things. And I guess it can be also done shorter, or even, let's say, if you do something more hands-on first, like more of a kind of a mediation or something that is probably shorter, like a 4 hour, and that creates a shift in people. And then you have like an ongoing training, maybe not 2 days together, but so I'm pretty sure there are many ways, and I wouldn't want to limit with this program. I wouldn't want to limit the field of possibility, saying, oh, it must be 2 days. 2 days work for me personally, but I would like for us together to explore what would work for you best, and then work with that. Second question, so how to persuade, I'm not so much connected with this word, but okay, I'll use it. This is actually the topic of the first day of the program. I would call it how to dialogue with the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper, so that's somebody who will say yes or no, somebody who will say 4 hours maximum. If not, fuck off, or they will say, okay, whatever, So there is somebody, CEO or HR manager or somebody that you are dialoguing with, and that's the dragon. That's the person standing and saying, "Thou shalt not pass." So for me, it is, how can I dialogue with this person? Actually, instead of to persuade them, how can I connect with them, demonstrating, manifesting the essence of NVC right now with them? How can I understand the reasons why they don't want to have more than 4 hours? How can I understand their personal reasons more than anybody did ever before? And then invite them, if they want to also hear my reasons and to share my reasons so clearly that they can connect, and so forth. So that is going to be one of the main 2 topics of the first day. Because for me, this is where magic starts happening. You know, in me not trying to persuade them, but NVC is really good, and you know, Marshall Rosenberg and Instead of this, doing it, connecting with them, and well, I will be sharing some experiences probably then, and it is going to be well, at least some of my experiences when I started to implement that were actually, you know, were deeply touching. When this big boss, big charismatic boss suddenly transformed into a vulnerable, innocent being, crushed with a sense of responsibility and confusion, let's say, you know, and it's so sweet when this connection happens and it's completely unexpected from their side. So that's, yeah, I wouldn't want to say more because I don't believe so much in, you know, kind of throwing in some random advice, but maybe that's the main thing I want to say right now, you know, how to already with this gatekeeper establish a dialogue, a connection, heart-to-heart connection here. And I trust that when a connection is established, then the field of possibilities opens up. And suddenly things that were absolutely not possible 10 minutes ago, they become completely possible very often. Can you remind me of your 3rd question, Alon? Or anybody? I know that was the one that you added. You added it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Oh, great.
You asked if I think you already answered that. If there's a hidden assumption that if it's 2 hours, then it's not really meaningful at all.
Or can be transformable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I could talk. Of course, I have assumptions. My assumptions are based on my interpretation of my experiences. You know, so of course I'm completely, you know, surfing on my assumptions. So definitely, yes, there are assumptions. Some of them are hidden. Some of them are not. What I do kind of consciously believe in is that I would want some magic to happen in the first meeting. Now, I trust from my experience that if I have 2 days, I'm pretty sure some magic will happen for most people. But maybe, you know, this can happen within 4 hours for most people. And that's, for me, this is a crucial thing. Some magic, some shift, something like, you know, because otherwise, if it's just intellectual, then it's probably not any different from any other communication training they may have had before. So that's the key element for me is magic. How can we, you know, bring this possibility of magic to happen for most people? Because then we have this intrinsic motivation. So that's how I see it. But to repeat in the program, in this course, we will not be working around the 2-day format. We will be working around the principles and then exploring together how you can put those principles or any other principles that you found as very essential, how you can implement them in whatever format it would work for you and for organization. Okay, so
thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, so I would now, not seeing any other questions, I would just go through the content, and then maybe there will be more questions. So the idea is 5 whole day meetings that we would have. Yeah. So the first meeting, you may have seen this schedule program already. I just want to comment on it a little bit. So the first meeting is about entering an organization, and one part of that first meeting will be what I just now mentioned in my answer to Alon. How to dialogue with the gatekeepers, how to dialogue with the decision makers. For me, this is an incredible art, and we'll be practicing it and demonstrating it and really working on it with all the typical questions and typical comments that these gatekeepers may throw at you. We will also be playing with a nightmare, like what's the statement or the question of the gatekeeper that you are most afraid of. For instance, what qualifies you, for this, or are you saying you are nonviolent, or something like that. So something that's like, oh my God, I hope nobody asks me that. And then how can we establish a dialogue? How can we use this scary statements of scary decision makers to actually open up a connection with them, to actually deepen the connection, rather than to just answer in a way that I will pass the exam. And the second part of the first day will be I will be sharing and then inviting you to practice it. Why did I learn how to connect with people in the first 2 hours when I'm presenting NVC? So I'm not mediating, I'm presenting NVC. I'm going to have a NVC workshop. What did I learn? How to present it. And for me, now this way always works, 100%, like literally 100% always works. And I'm so happy I kind of managed to discover it with also implementing some other tools. And I will share, I will demonstrate, and then I will invite you whoever will be participating to practice, to practice, basically to engage with participants, and participants, we will all be participants, will be, more or less evil, just to give you some some sweat, so you can practice it. So this is the idea of the first meeting. Then the second meeting will be focused on language and demonstrations. One thing that I noticed is that if we enter the organization with a very, well, depending on what the organization is. So if it's an NGO, then probably no problem. But if you are entering, you are working with the management of a financial institution, like of a bank, or or something like this, and it's all men in the room, then maybe you want to adapt the language to keep the intention, but to adapt it to the language that will not freak people out, and they will have easier time to connect. Because if you will suddenly start talking about feelings and needs, you may lose them. This is a serious organization. This is serious business. We don't have time to talk about feelings and light candles and do pujas every day. This is new agey, wishy-washy bullshit. This is serious stuff. So how can I, use the language? It will still be transferring the essence. However, it will be using the vocabulary that is not scaring anybody, and it's easy for people to connect with. And it's quite an art. So we'll be practicing this, and then we'll be doing also demonstrations. I noticed in my experience, demonstrations are incredible. They're an incredible tool for me to demonstrate something in front of the group. It's almost like if I am a very experienced martial artist, I can be talking about the martial art and they will be like, yeah. But if I say, okay, so here is the knife, would you like to attack me? And I promise I will not harm you, but and then one guy will come and attack me, and then maybe I'll do something, and they will go like, oh, and then another person will attack me, the third one, and then suddenly they start to get it, like, hey, there is something in this martial art. There is something there. So in a similar way, if I can demonstrate, not talk, because, if you just talk, when people say, well, yeah, but what do you say if a person says, you're an idiot? So what can I answer with this NVC? And then I would say, well, what I would do, I would, empathize, and then I would say this and that. And then the person will say, well, I tried that, it doesn't work, and it's like an ongoing cycle. But if I say, how about us demonstrating? Can you come here? You tell me who you are, you tell me who I am, and you start, and then I'll just try to connect with you, and then I use 5-10 minutes to demonstrate. I'm not saying I'll do it perfectly, but it will be probably different from what they are used to. It will be a different type of communication. And then there will be another demonstration and another one. And, and suddenly, oh, that martial art he's talking about. So, or she. And it becomes something way more tangible. So again, I would demonstrate the demonstrations. Maybe also give some insights about what to pay attention to when offering demonstration, because there are some aspects that are a bit tricky, and then we will be practicing. And it's not only to practice to be able to demonstrate tomorrow, but every demonstration is, for me, excellent practice of NVC skills. Right. Third meeting. We will go into how to address issues that are conflicts, mostly conflicts. So we have a group, we have a team, we want to bring in NVC into this team or organization. They have more conflicts than it is healthy for them to have in case I just want to give a workshop. They will not be really able to follow a workshop because there are too many conflicts. So let's first have a mediation, and then afterwards we can have a workshop. And then we'll be talking about the formal mediation, meaning that we will, okay, so next Tuesday from 9 to 2, we have a gathering, 12 people from this team plus me. And, it will be a formal mediation. Or sometimes you will end up having an informal mediation, meaning that you actually started as a workshop, but then the conflict erupted and you want to address it right now. So principles are pretty much similar. It's just that, again, it's like with martial arts, with a formal mediation, you are prepared. You say, okay, attack me now. And you are ready. With informal, you are not prepared. Somebody's just charging at you, so you are there. But we will be exploring how can this mediation be effective in a group. It is not going to be a training in NVC mediation, because that's a slightly different direction. Because we will not be talking about really mediating between two individuals. But how to mediate within a group. And again, me explaining what I have learned so far, demonstrating, and then us role-playing a team, an organization with difficulties, and each of you will have some time to try to mediate. And basically, not to do it perfectly, but to learn from experiences. And of course, we'll also be talking about informal interventions, how to recognize the conflict and jump in and do something about it, handle it in a way. So that's the third meeting. Before I go into the fourth and fifth one, I just want to say this is all my innocent, naive plan. So this is what I would like to cover in a 5-day course. But of course, maybe other things will come up. Maybe the group will say, hey, let's spend more time on this and less on that. Okay. Or, how about this? So I will try to be as flexible and address whatever is alive in the group. But, that's kind of my fantasy. Okay. And then the last two meetings, meeting number 4 and number 5, will be based on all our NVC skills of connecting and mediating and all of that, but it will actually go a bit beyond. It will go into the direction of helping groups to solve problems, not necessarily conflicts, but problems they're having. Conflict is, something that's more like interpersonal, but problem is like, yeah, we have 3 possible solutions and we don't know how to decide which one to go for instance. Or we know what our problems are, but we don't know what is the next step, and stuff like that. And I will be sharing with you practically, and then again, we will be working on it. Each of you will be again and again in a position of facilitating several processes that in my experience really help. Now, I have had quite some trainings in large group facilitation, not connected to NVC, large group facilitation and art of hosting. So I've done many trainings in that, and then I took out what seems to be most effective, at least for me. And I want to share these tools because you might find them very useful. So the first one, we will be on the meeting number 4, we will be one tool is called FFF, doesn't mean anything, but basically we will be exploring how can we one approach, how to help a group learn from the past. Very often what happens in the groups, they don't seem to be learning from the past. It's like again and again they will fall into the same hole. They all agree that their meetings are a disaster. They all agree on that. Meetings are disaster. But the next one will be a disaster as well. And all the meetings in the next 2 years are going to be a disaster. So it's almost like not learning from the past. So how can we help a group learn from the past? Not learn from, not that I will tell them, oh, you just do this or that, but that they can learn from their past, because they know the situation much more than I can ever know, because they live this situation 8 hours per day, 5 days per week. I can never understand the situation quite as much as they do. So all the wisdom is there. It's in the group, not in my head. My question for me is, can I distill it? Can I harvest it? Can I bring it together in a meaningful way so that then they can learn from their own past, from their own history, and build on that? So that will be one tool. The second tool I will offer, and we will be exploring it. It's called context mapping. It's very often I notice that one of the main problems for the group or for the team is that they just see their own inner structure and their own inner difficulties, but they seem to be lacking the way to constructively connect with what's happening out there. And I don't mean just competition, but what's the zeitgeist, what's the spirit of the time, you know, to kind of take into account the ocean or the sea, or, you know, what is around us, because that has been directly or indirectly influencing and if we don't take that into account, again, we will keep bumping into walls. So how to do this context mapping in an efficient, facilitated, participatory, fun way that will also help us distill and harvest something really, really useful for us to then build on the future. And then the last bit in this fourth meeting will be now how to, it's kind of a very classical
Sharon, you had a question?
process. Yeah.
I thought to leave it for
the
end, but I can ask now. I didn't quite get the context mapping.
Right.
Like, maybe can you give an example how what's happening outside the group may affect the group?
Yeah, sure. So let's say I work with a team. It's a large organization, and there is a marketing team, let's say, and I work with them. We want to address some problems, learn from the past, find a better way to collaborate among them, and so forth. Okay, so we will of course go into the past, see what was happening so far, how was it influencing them, what can we learn from the past, and so forth. So we have some guidelines, right? So this is what we learned from our past, from being this team for last 5 years. And we want to take this into account, because if we don't take these 7 points into account, we will probably fall into the same pitfall again. That's the one thing. That's about our inner dynamics. But what is the context that we are influenced by? It is probably the management of the company. It is probably people that we are directly communicating with. It is the whatever team over there, it is the accounting team, it is this and that. It is also the corona situation, which is, I don't know, slowing down the economy. It is also the fact that there is some tension happening in regards to this, you know. So there might be many things happening that are directly influencing us. And if we are not aware of them, then we will not take them into account when we make all our beautiful plans about how to collaborate better in the future. Does it make sense?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then the last bit in this fourth meeting will be how to now come from this pool of ideas, because very often you have 30 people in the room and you have 70 ideas, you know, what we should do. Now, how to get them together, how to distill those ideas. And, you know, it's called the Divergent, Convergent process, in which we first want to gather all ideas and then find a way to bring them together so that at the end we have projects. Maybe we'll have 5, 6 projects that these 30 people in the room will start, initiate, and decide who will do what, when, and how will they be checking their progress. You know, so how to come from I think that we should into a very specific projects that everybody will be excited about. So it's quite an art. So that's the That's also the topic of the fourth meeting. And then the fifth meeting will be exploring some practices of art of hosting. I don't know if you are familiar with art of hosting. It's I would call it, it's like a next level of large group facilitation. You know, large group facilitation is to have 30 or 20 or 100 or 500 people in the room, and you design, you learn what they want. So they would like to learn from the past and make a vision for the future. Okay, good, okay. And then I design the process and I carry the process out. How will they learn from the past and implement that into visioning their future, and then put it down into specific steps, let's say. And so that would be a kind of a classical large group facilitation. Now, art of hosting, actually it's called art of hosting meaningful conversations and harvesting. It's, for me, it adds another element. It adds the element that this is not my words, not necessarily written on the Art of Hosting website. But with my words, I would say, whenever there is a group of people together, there is a meaning, there is a quality that wants to be manifested. There is something that wants to be born through that specific combination of these specific conscious individuals that came together. There is something conscious. Yes, they want to carry out this project and they want to do this. Yeah, that's fine. No doubts about that. And I believe there is something bigger that wants to be manifested. You know, it's almost like whenever you sit together with a friend, you can have a conscious conversation, you know, in which you will be sharing with each other what happened to you in the last 2 weeks since you have met, and you will be empathizing with each other and so forth. That's beautiful. And I believe there is another level that wants to be expressed, that sometimes if we just sit together for 5 minutes, looking into each other's eyes, let's say, just to give you an example, it might happen that a deeper topic will surface. That instead of what I would normally tell you, I will actually say, you know what? There is part of me that's really, really sad. I'm really sad. I have no idea where this sadness is coming from, but there is, as if there is part of me sad all the time. You know, there will be something coming out from me, want to be expressed, and then maybe that will touch you. And it will be the deepest, the most conversation. So and sharing, and you know, and it's almost like wherever there is a circle, you know, something wants to emerge from the center. And whenever there is a group together, there is something that wants to be manifested. And in art of hosting, we want to listen to that. We want to also take that into account. We also want to bring some sort of awareness of that in the room. And that's why we are using certain approaches and principles that invite and make space for that. So one principle that we will be exploring, that I will be offering, is so-called Appreciative Inquiry. Moving from this mechanical approach to problems, which is, you know, let's identify what's wrong and then let's fix that, which is kind of something that most of us have been conditioned in, to actually approach problems by exploring what else is possible, rather than seeing what is wrong and let's fix that. But what is the untapped potential there? What is what is, if we change the lens of the camera, zoom in, zoom out, what else can we see that has been invisible so far, and bring it into our consciousness and awareness, and then take it into account when we are thinking about present and the future. So we'll be exploring the appreciative inquiry approach to approach problems, to approach also, if you wish, to do some coaching. Let's say if you want to coach people individually, if you want to do the team coaching, if you just want to start working with a group that is having some issues. I just keep finding so many possibilities to apply the appreciative inquiry. So that's one tool or approach or philosophy I will be offering. And another one is also implementing or bringing in the power of dreaming. Dreaming is a human activity that, or I don't mean just dreaming during the night, but kind of a daydreaming, fantasizing. It's a human activity that with this new or modern society is very often we have been discouraged from early childhood. Stop dreaming, be realistic, stop fantasizing and wasting your time. You're such a dreamer, get grounded with your feet and work and so forth. So somehow dreaming has been, for most of us, and of course, I don't know, your cultural background. I do know about myself and my friends from childhood that quite early in the childhood, the message was, do not dream. Losers dream. Achievers work, and not waste time dreaming. And if we do that, then all the creativity is lost, because all the creativity is a consequence of dreaming. First, you need to, open up the space for something to be created in this dreamland, in the fantasy land. The computer you're staring in right now is a result of somebody's dream. Somebody was dreaming about that. I mean, not somebody, but very many people were dreaming. Do you think we could have really these kind of small computers, really tiny with batteries, and many people around them would probably said oh, come on, impossible, batteries they don't have this capacity, and it make no sense, and you can't have so small hard disk and so forth. But then somebody was persisting with their own dream. So everything, whatever we look, not just the art, but everything is a result of a dream of somebody. So we will be exploring also how to implement that, because for me, and that's probably, hopefully, the last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll see if there are any questions. Because for me, the main thing, why at all working in organizations, and okay, I'll say, why do I work in organizations, even in business environment? Because I dream of a different world. I dream of a world in which the economy is not the king and the ruler, and humans are the servants of the economy. I quite frankly and quite openly tell this to my whoever is inviting me into their organization. I tell them, listen, I imagine you really care about profit. It's really important for you. They say, of course, sure. I just want to be very clear. I don't care about profit. I really don't care about your profit. So I'm not, that's not why I'm here. I'm not going to try to help you increase profit. I trust you know how to do that. But what I really care about is how joyful people are. I dream about the world in which people are spending their life joyfully 24 hours per day. It's not like, oh, I will work for 8 hours and I would drive for additional 2 hours, and then maybe over weekends I will get some rest so that then I can work some more And then I had this 2-week vacation on Sinai, you know, and that's gonna make my life so meaningful and so beautiful. I actually dream about a world in which people are in their element 24 hours. Because I believe that's why we came here to this world, to create, to enjoy, to dance, to, you know, bring ourselves fully into this realm of existence. And for me, I couldn't care less about economy, really. So for me, that's my kind of hidden assumption or my hidden vision. You know, also when I work in corporate environment, it's you know, how to invite people into this space, and then they can think about what else can we be. What else can we be than just a profit-making machine for the shareholders? What else can we become? Something that would make us so proud and so joyful that we wouldn't be able to wait until tomorrow morning when we'll come back to our offices, because we will be so excited that watch the security guard will have to beat us away, like, go home, you idiot, because we will just want to be there. So that's my hidden agenda and my joy and my dream, and that's what I believe we can invite people in these organizations, to not just become a well-oiled organization that will be performing what it was designed to perform, but actually that it will be, you know, able to reinvent itself and keep reinventing themselves for the benefit of the whole. I think I'm pretty much complete with what I wanted to share and what was alive in me. Unless Sharon is my boss. Unless there is more you want me to say about something specific, and then I would like to open for questions.
I can open. I just want to add that if there's questions around the part of organizing it, then I'm here to answer also.
I'm not sure that it's been asked about the logistics of this course. Maybe because I came up, enjoyed late. But did you talk about the logistic of the course? Days?
I've sent emails about it to whoever asked. I can say now what I think most of you know, that because there's such a specific group of people that this content is relevant for them, then my preference was to see who these people are and what they can and what they cannot, and try to create the 5 days program according to them, with the knowledge that we probably won't be able to answer everybody's needs, but as far as we can. So I'm waiting for until after this session to happen to make sure who wants to be in the group, and then decide what days are best for that.
And it will be here in Israel, right?
It will be 5 events, 5 full days.
Yeah.
Yeah, from morning to evening.
Frontal meetings, or it's going to be a Zoom?
No, frontal meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Israel, yes.
In Israel, yeah, and in the north. This we also know.